what we do. This is season 8, episode 36, number 343 of the Decoded Podcast. We had a long on ramp, and I
Yeah.
thank you for listening to me because I was ranting at the end there. I kind of finished. I was like, that was a rant, but sometimes that happens. I was telling you in the on ramp that I brought my coffee maker up here today. So you see, here's I love my Parliament coffee mug. It's empty, but in a moment, it will be full. I was getting upset that I could only drink one cup of coffee up here, and usually it's almost pretty much gone by the time the on ramp was over. But I didn't like that. I want my coffee during the podcast. So I brought up this little machine. I have everything I need here, my little barista bar. I'm gonna make my coffee.
It's like you're COVIDizing your space. Gotta have your computer, your coffee maker, your air, what do they call it? The atomizer. So you have your peppermint mist in the background, your radio, your cot in the corner. It's like a post-apocalyptic setup. It's the first couple steps.
It brings me comfort, bro.
It brings you comfort. Just like I'm sure back in the day, someone was looking at their phone. They're looking at their phone in their house and they're holding their radio in their hand. And like, wouldn't it be great if these things were the same machine where I could just have my phone and my camera all in the same thing, and for it to go in my pocket? It's the convergence theory, eh? Can we make it smaller? Can we make it better? Can I put more things in the one spot? I want to circle back to what you were talking about in the on-ramp, and it's actually, I what I like about it is there's a philosophical framework around it that fascinates me. And it had to do with something you said, and I hear people say this, and it grinds me when I hear people say it. It's a little bit of a fossil. It's a fossil phenomenon. It's a fossil phenomenon, but it's one of those it's not specifically what you said, isn't specifically like, it's a thing that we say, and it's not just in education, but it's also, I think, something that needs to be kind of pulled apart a little bit so that the moment we say it, we have a check and balance to actually deal with it more effectively. So it's kind of like I'll call it a fossil phenomenon. And what you said is a psychological phenomenon called, we've talked about on here before, false consensus. And it goes something like this, where I'll put it with an example. You're sitting in a staff meeting, something is said in the staff meeting, you say to yourself, that's bullshit. And then you look around at the people around you, and you're like looking at the people, and the immediate reaction is, when you call out the bullshit, is to sort of look around, and you're looking for other people you're looking for consensus. You're actually looking for someone else to kind of simultaneously notice that you are looking around. And timing is everything. Timing is everything in this. Speaker at the front says something, you're like, whoa. So you might have a physical reaction, you have a mental reaction, you might have a verbalization, you might hear, come on. Some people kind of do that. And then your next move, typically, they don't stay encapsulated. Typically, then the next move is you look around the room and you sort of lean on the side of your chair. And depending on what your reaction is, you might be kind of like nodding your head. And depending on how cavalier you are, you don't give a shit if the person at the front sees you reacting, because that's the whole thing about theater. You're kind of hoping to create a reaction in your audience sometimes. I get that. I do that. But the false consensus is where you go from, well, it could be false consensus is everybody must believe what I believe, or nobody is believing this. Just, well, I guess it's always a belief statement. Everyone feels the same way, obviously. But then you shift to, nobody must feel like this. Nobody must feel like this, because nobody else is like making noises or reactions to whatever's being presented. It becomes a phenomenon. It gets phenomenon level when there's like a high percentage, something like don't want to call it up and Google it, but there's actually a high percentage where people are there's an actual number of people that are actually on board versus off board. The more useful one to me is that when, let's say, you are in alignment with proper thinking. So I'm talking about the people that actually clear thinkers, aware of protocol, make this about education, aware of protocol and ruling in school. They do good work. They do the legwork. They're actually, they are operating at a level that is highly effective, maybe even masterful. My problem with this phenomenon is that, I mean, it kind of falls into the groupthink family of phenomena, is that if you actually do have an issue with something, and then you look around and you see nobody else is actually being pissed off about it like you, that's a pretty good, and part of it is you have to, I guess, know your worth, know your work, know what you represent, your welfare at the school. Like if you're a shitty worker, you might have small epiphanies of like, this ain't right, or this is awesome. But really, I think you have to have a certain, you got to be operating at least at level 3 in your teacherness overall. But the thing that you mentioned just in the on-ramp, that was, akin to, well, everybody must be thinking this too. Like it's sort of like that false consensus thing. Everyone must be operating in the same mindset. I would challenge you, like, as soon as, what I've found is like whenever I hit that moment, especially, with my being in a new department, like I'm as fresh in there as you are, right? In my department as you are, in the school as you are. There's a really, really important dissembling chaos that I need to sort of bring to those moments where I crack it open and actually call it out and make it a discussion. So if I do sort of notice a thing, asking the why is great, just engaging discussion, but verbalizing, we're doing the work and being brave enough to say, is anybody else noticing this? Is anybody else bothered by this? Or even be really brave. I'm really bothered by this. Can we talk it out? And to present it to the team. Now I get it. In order to get to that kind of like a conversation level, there's layers. I get it. But I'm becoming more and more, I guess, emboldened by reminding myself the amount of time I've spent in these spaces, and the exact thing that gives me the fatigue, like how the F do people not know this by now? I'm trying to take a little bit of like a Red Bull moment out of it. Like instead of sort of the deflation, saying, no, I'll step forward into it like, hey, I don't really think this is a thing. And just kind of sitting there for a second, like, but I want to talk it out. So I'm going to reveal the fact that I have a belief that I believe is right, but I'm going to put it out on the table. I'm going to remain open to the possibility that I'm not shaping it exactly well. And at the same time, I'm going to try and push our thinking in a direction, because this should not play out like this again. And this becomes particularly prickly where you might be sort of like observing how, people that have legitimate power or access to power, they're lateral to you, but they have access to power in a little way. And so you need information from them, you need the action, something like they have to operate in a way of high accountability, and they don't seem to be doing it. And I've encountered many people like that in jobs. I'm just like, why can't you get to this thing? It's right there. Just do the thing. But yeah, that false consensus factor, that sort of thing where you can do one of two routes. You fall into the fact of everyone must believe in the exact same thing that I do, or nobody's obviously believing in this, so why bother? So they both kind of lead to a why bother state. Because the false consensus spot basically means we're not willing to take it to true consensus, which is having a discussion to actually find out how people feel. And I will tell you, assholes depend on this. They depend on this. This is where we talk about where people can actually introduce things into conversation that feel like we're being gaslit. For some individuals, it takes very little. It's quite viral, very little to get them gaslighting themselves and questioning their own thinking. But I thought we're supposed to do it like this. And they're saying this about something that they've been doing accurately and well and clearly for years. And then someone introduces a little bit of this dissonance. Could be about an IP, could be about an assessment, it could be about how we talk to kids. But I love this false consensus phenomenon. I am betting anyone could sort of find at least one moment in their career where they've done that, where they're like lit up by something, and they get lit up, woo, and then they do the look, and then they're doing like this soft assessment, no engagement, soft assessment, and they'll say one of two things. Obviously nobody feels like me, or the well, I wonder who feels like me, but still they don't see action, so they're like deflation. I love this. I love that phenomenon.
They don't see
Staff
back.
staff meetings, I've hundreds, thousands of times that I've seen that moment play out.
They don't see reaction because people like me say in my mind, do not react. Do not react. Do not look around to see who's looking around to see who's
Don't
looking
look
around.
around to see who's looking around. I love it.
Because it's happened, and I've been in my favorite is when I'm in a vantage point where I can see everybody, and I don't have to do it because I'm already looking at everybody, but I can
Yeah.
see people doing it, and I'm telling myself, don't do it. Don't do it. Um, but I'm thinking it, and I hear what you're saying, but there's how many times do we then realize after we have a conversation with a group that they were all thinking something similar to what I was thinking? That happens all the time, and nobody wants to be the one to say anything. But then when somebody says something, then everybody else is like, shit, thanks for saying that because I was
Mhm.
thinking the same thing, but I wasn't going to take the risk. And I've been on both sides of that. I've been the one to take the risk, and I've been the one to not take the risk. And I've actually found comfort. So this is really kind of cool. I guess maybe about getting older or maturing or whatever it is you want to call it. I am becoming more comfortable each day with who I am. And that doesn't mean like my core values, I'm starting to like just settle into them and feel like good that this is who I am. And there are going to be people who think that it's not good who I am. And that's okay because they're allowed to think that. But I need to be good with me to do me. And a coworker was telling me something. They were explaining something. And I said, "Oh, well, I'm glad you explained that, but I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to respond that way." Like they were basically like, they were like planning out this is how you should deal with this situation. I said, I'm not doing that. And then they kind of looked at me. I said, no, don't take this the wrong way. I have a lot of respect for you, and I'm listening and I'm taking in what you're saying. But I'm now telling you, after I've heard what you've had to say, I'm not going to do that. It goes against many of my core values. I don't operate like that. For good or bad, that's not how I operate. Could I fake it? Maybe another time. But in this situation, I'm not doing that. And it was an interesting moment because the person was looking at me like, but this is the right thing to do. And I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I can give you 100 reasons why. You don't want to hear them. So no, I'm not doing that. That's where I draw the line. And and then I go into, this is why I feel okay, because I've done things already. They've not been received well. So I'm done. I'm moving on to something else. Because, and then I remember joking with this person saying, even if I held on to this, how many things can I hold on to? I can't hold on to every single situation that's come my way. I'm going to have to let go of some. And this is like the filter. I've decided that this one I'm not touching. But I can tell you about the 5 other things I'm picking up. Do you want to hear about those? And then we have a good laugh. But it was just funny because when I was like, I was just very black and white. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Maybe and I'm like, your your knowledge and wisdom is noted. I'm not pretending like I didn't hear what you said. I heard it, and it's banked in my brain that maybe one day I have to operate in the way that you just described. But in this situation, I'm not doing it. Even at my own peril, I'm not doing it. That's how you know. That's how I know whatever's powering me is friggin' strong. Because I could be at peril. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not giving this the attention other people might think it deserves. On that note, Gary's with us. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Gary.
Uh,
I,
go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, that whole, I'm going to challenge all of our listeners, and I guess indirectly you, to never say that again, to officially put that to the fossil fuel list.
What?
Never ever say, don't take this the wrong way. It's
It's a good
terrible.
fossil. It's a good fossil.
Kids, it's a shitty phrase. Like, really, like what you're
Is
the
it worse
sort of
than let me be honest with you?
well, they're the same. It's just this is a new noticing. It's a new noticing. Let me be honest with you, is in that same disingenuous kind of communication that is murky. It is manipulative, like maybe unwittingly manipulative, sometimes knowingly manipulative. It's weak, indirect communication. And just that, don't take this the wrong way, is again, like, the way that it primes a conversation is it primes a conversation for distrust. It just does. It starts from a distrustful place, that the thing that I'm about to say is obviously hurting you, bothering you, but you have to, throughout that, accept the fact that I'm a good person and I'm actually not trying to hurt or harm you. Like, right? So it sets up this weird binary of abuse that's just like, F it, take it the wrong way. That's your responsibility to deal with that as a human being. If you actually think that I am intentionally attacking you, that's different. But our conversation here, where I'm introducing thinking into your brain that bothers you, is not an attack. It is just me. It's one of the few things. I'm not a big fan of Jordan Peterson. I'm not. I sort of float on this edge where I think he's slightly a garbage individual. But then he does have a few kind of things I'm like, philosophically, I think I agree with him. So I sort of include him. And that's something that I've kind of learned from him, is this idea is, because I disagree with you, is not me causing you harm. Because I have an opinion that's different than yours, it is not me attacking you. You may feel on defense because you're not easily convincing me, or you may feel like you're on the defense, or you don't feel accepted or lesser than because I am not openly taking your opinion into an account. But that's basically what debate is, right? But when we call it debate, there's rules of engagement. It's, there's fair play, all that other kind of stuff. But if I openly disagree with you, man, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't think people should be that loud when they sip from their coffee cup on podcasts. Come on, like, it's right. Don't take this the wrong way, but having your kind of coffee station up in your office is kind of COVIDian in nature. Yeah, is it not, right? It's kind of, but don't take it the wrong way. Yeah, that's and it's the things we say. That's what the whole thing about the fossil list. It's the things we say when we're not really saying anything. When we're looking to fill the moment with something that seems like it's pattern, right? It's easy patterns. What I love, I'll backtrack it to part of the conversation you and I had last night coming home from Foodapalooza. And we notice this whenever we're in a space of educators. It's probably, fortune smiles on the couples that have only teacher friends, and they're all teachers hanging around, educators hanging around together, because, man, what a bunch of flock of seagulls we become, all chirping in the same way, like, mine. Like, we're all kind of singing the same tune, different flavors, different whatever. What I like about, what was cool about the Foodapalooza meetup, right, was that we kind of we had ordered attachment, as in, we found a way to kind of talk about our affinity in our space, like talking about education. But for the most part, everyone got a story out that wasn't directly a part of education. And that's what I appreciate that, right? That we got beyond the fossil comments of, I think I sent that link to you. I did about that, the questions, different better questions that you can ask in discussion that aren't like, what do you do? I have to find that one again because it was good. I think I saved the video, but I know I forwarded it to you. But just getting together and being able to talk about things that aren't the low hanging fruit, I think is a good model as well for department meetings. And I'm not talking about like really getting to the you having to reveal private information. I'm just talking about making sure that the things that we are talking about when we gather together for a department meeting or with our colleagues that have a little deeper import to them than fossil fuel kind of questions. And I get that that those social engagements can grease the wheels for trust. I understand this. But when that's all we're doing. We're actually greasing the shit out of that wheel without ever moving it. Come on. That's where I get bogged down in the but yeah, you know, don't take offense to this, but
So the fossil fuel, the fossil list
mhm,
brings me a lot of joy now
mm,
that I'm
yeah,
aware when I'm having conversations with people, to the point where I think it's not fair that they may look at me and think I'm pleasant because I'm smiling at them and nodding and engaged, when really I'm stuck on three sentences back when they said, "Let me be honest with you," and I'm relishing that moment. And they're talking, but I don't know what they've said because I'm like,
you're like, there it
fossil.
is.
I'm like,
Ding,
yeah.
ding, 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 ding.
So they're
If you had
talking.
the empathy engines on, right,
Oh,
you would have the metrics right up in front of your eye. I'm like, oh shit, in the pool.
but
Let me be honest with you is now like it just is now in the lead. Let me be honest with you.
it would come up like red, like another fossil.
Yeah,
But what I would want my empathy engines to do then is, when I finally snap out of enjoying the moment from a minute ago, it could tell me, it would
yeah,
direct me on how to come back to the conversation.
yeah.
Because what
Here's your on
happens
ramp.
is, yeah, because what happens is I'm sidetracked. So I don't know what they're talking about anymore, because I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome. This fossil list, it brings me joy. Do they know what they just said, and what it means to me?" And they're like, "Roland, are you listening?" I'm like, "Oh, yes. Here I am again." And then they're like, "Let me be frank." And I'm like, "Oh, here we go. Derailed off the road." Um, but this is this is life, and I do enjoy the moments where I do enjoy, what do I call these moments? Um, oh, the words on the tip of my tongue, but these moments where I had a few of them yesterday at work. I I had a few moments yesterday where I found myself side by side with a staff member that I would never want to spend any time with.
Mhm.
And then next thing you know, I'm engaged in deep, we're talking about family. We're talking about, hey, what's going to happen this summer when you're not in the building here? What do you do with your life? Like, moments where I have no love for this person, that I'm willing to go deep out of spite. And that's not what I say, that because it's the first thing that comes to mind, but that's not really what it is. But that's the best way to describe it at the moment. It's like, I dislike you so much, or I'm I have no connection to you at all and don't want to talk to you, but we're standing here waiting to get our lunch. Tell me about your family. What does your husband do for a living? And just being just totally out there, and see, how do they respond? Do they engage? Do they look at me funny, like, why are you asking me that question? What are they going to do with that? And then what am I going to do with that? It's almost like a challenge for me. It's like, oh, I'm going to have to stand here for 2 minutes with this person. And sometimes I say nothing, which is even awesomer, because they're like, what is wrong with him? I'm like, I'm choosing not to talk to you. I'm choosing that uncomfortable silence for you. It's not uncomfortable for me because I don't want to give you anything. I don't want to take anything either.
Mhm.
That's a cool one too. And I get caught in those a lot. Gary, you'll appreciate this. And many of our listeners might appreciate this too. In my work, I do not see myself. I belong to a program, but I really don't have any buddies in my program. Like I don't have any buddies in my program. So when I go to like an all staff activity, I go to the staff activity by myself and I watch people enter and leave with their little pack. I see the packs. And I've been part of a pack before in different schools along the years, right? I've had a crew. I don't have a crew in this school. Um, and I noticed that. And so there's a lot of moments where it's me versus a crew and they're doing their thing and I'm just standing there and I'm not engaging. And I would love to have my empathy engine glasses on so I can get a vibe of who might be, who might, is anybody paying attention to me? And if they are, how might that attention be dealt with? Long story short,
Mm.
I love it. Don't take this the wrong way, but
We need the button. We just
we could set that up. We have the
we did. I wish.
technology, but we,
Yeah, I wish. I mean, maybe if we decided to pay for StreamYard, there's a little button. It's like a bleep button where you can sort of just like.
oh, Polo, just so you know, Polo re-upped. I I got an email saying thanks for subscribing again.
Okay. Okay.
Just an FYI. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shoot, that okay. And I wanted it to, which is good
Yes.
because
It's a good reminder.
if I didn't if I didn't want it, then I would have sent myself an email to remind myself to turn it off. All this to say, I feel like every day that goes on, I feel like I guess I'm finally accepting me for who I am, which I've been conflicted about for a long time. And
Mm.
it's funny to say that because I'm like, it's the midlife thing. I'm just feeling like, what am I doing here? I don't need to leave a legacy, but am I doing good? Am I doing bad? What am I doing here? And yeah, I don't have a crew at work. So for big things, I come and go as I please. Um, and it brings a smile to my face as I listen to the conversations and I watch the crews come in and out. And it's something. I'm okay with not talking. I'm okay with talking. It all depends because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me that Jimmy says, "What's wrong with Chidiac? Like, how come he never talks? Is there something wrong with Chidiac?" That brings a smile to my face. There's a lot that's wrong with Chidiac, but there's a lot of good too. Cheers! I gotta finish this cup. I want to start another one.
Get sipping. Yeah, I avoid crew. I don't.
You don't have a crew?
No, I actually avoid that altogether.
It'd be funny if we worked on the same staff and we're buddies, but we would never hang because we don't have a crew. There's Clough over
Yeah.
there by himself. There's Chidiac over there by himself.
Well, it's funny. Like, I think people have see here's people have tried to draw me into their crews, or they've tried to be on my crew, which I don't advertise. Like, I don't solicit out like, hey, you want to be on my crew? I don't do that.
You
People have
want to be on my
tried.
crew?
Yeah, yeah. But so here's where it's funny. Countless times, people that I've worked with, like, so if we take a staff meeting as an example, I sit right near the front, and I sit as dead center to what's being presented as possible, and I take it in, and um, I want to be able to have a clear line of sight to the screen. If that's what it is, I like to have a clear line of sight to the speaker. I've always done that. So I am the dude that sits in. Well, unless it's like I sit very close to the front, but I'll also kind of strategize. Like, if being just on the side, it's not. But listen, it's not a simple thing for me to decide when I go into a public space for any sort of presentation or even buying tickets for a show, like something like I'm strategizing, right? I'm thinking about how easily can I get out of here, like where the snack's going to be, how much learning, like all those little metrics are constantly going, and it never gets 100%. but I'm constantly assessing the room. So people have tried to be on my crew or have tried to include themselves in my crew, but they typically step away as soon as they see, oh, where are you going? Oh, no, 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 no. I don't like sitting near the front. Countless times, bud. Like I'm walking in with a couple people, and it tends to be like it's not like I go and I collect people and I walk with the group. I'm not the guy like that's gonna like even I walk past your classroom and I notice that you're okay. So, common event, we're walking to the cafeteria. This has happened a few times. We're end of the day, we're walking to the library for our staff meeting. I walk past a colleague's door. I can see they're just wrapping stuff up and they're kind of in motion to walk towards the door. And I get it. Typical psychology might be that you look in, hey, how's it going? And then you pause and then that person walks with you. I just keep walking. I just keep walking to the staff meeting. Like I'll acknowledge, hey, how's it going? But I just keep going. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get to the meeting, I'm gonna get done. I do not think to myself, it just doesn't occur to me like I'm gonna it does now as I'm talking about it, but it doesn't, I guess it occurs to me, but it doesn't land as an actionable item for me to stop and wait for that person just to shut off the lights and close the door. I keep walking. And I have had people kind of like, oh, okay, see ya. Like as I keep on walking down to the thing. So that's a little bit like where people, just saying where they're sort of seems like they're trying to be on my crew, right? They want to sort of follow along with me, but I'm not waiting for them. The other thing is like walking into the meeting, and then they see where I'm going to sit, and they're like, yeah, I'm not going to sit there. Even as of yesterday when we had the staff meeting, and I walked out the door with my EA out of the classroom, and we're walking down the hall, and she stops for a moment to talk to someone. I just kept on walking, and then she kind of caught up to me, and as we walked in, she's like, oh, where are we gonna sit? And I'm like, well, I'm sitting up here. You're welcome to come and sit there, but I'm gonna sit up there in that. And she's like, oh, no, I'm not gonna sit there. I'm like, okay, I'll see you after the meeting. So I actively disassemble those moments. But I'm not seeking. I honestly, I one of those things where you say second half of life kind of thinking. I very much in moments like that, the thing that I've come to understand is what my needs are in those staff meetings for me to feel like I'm kind of getting the most, maximizing it. And I know for me, being able to take in the information that's in front of me is the high level that I want to operate at. I want to be able to consider what's said at the staff meeting after the staff meeting. I want to be able to look at the handout on my computer while we're sort of going through, take my notes, and be as present in that moment as possible. And that usually involves not having somebody sitting beside me that I have to manage and say, just be quiet because I want to hear what's going on, right? Someone chirping in my ear. And there are some people that have done that. And there are a couple people this past year, like you said, like 1 second I'm thinking I just don't want to be around this person at all. And then the next second I'm like, wow, you're kind of interesting. But it's usually that they've introduced something other than a work element. Like there has to be something else that sort of catches my interest. There's one particular dude that, it's like something in my instinct said, hey, maybe this person could be a friend. So I kind of put it out there, like we exchange numbers. I'm like, look, August is free. Let's go grab a coffee. So I'll see when I hit August if that idea pops up into my head and it's as sparkly as it seemed when I was leaving. So who knows? I might actually have a friend, but I don't have a crew. I don't have even in the department meetings. People, it's sort of funny. You'll have the person that's talking, you'll have me, and then you'll have the other department members all kind of sitting together. And I'm fine with that. Like it doesn't, again, it's just, I don't crave to have a crew. I like the freedom that comes with low social accountability. I like that. I like that freedom. I feel like it lets me do my job better. It also frees up my resources to actually work with the kids. Because I'm not making decisions on who I'm supposed to be having lunch with that day. right?
Gary
Or where we normally sit in the cafeteria kind of thing. Sorry.
Gary said he can definitely relate. Drill down a little bit, Gary, because we said a lot.
Yeah, I blathered a lot. So,
Look who's talking. I blather all the time.
well, our pod, our rules, right?
Yeah, our pod, our rules. Yesterday after Foodapalooza,
Hmm.
you and I were talking in the car, and I wanted to talk here about the idea of how much things have changed in our lives since we started this podcast,
Hmm.
and the evolution, I guess, of who we are as dads, as educators, as people. I was going to say men. Is it fair to say men?
Hmm.
I
I'll accept that.
Okay. And even if you didn't, our pod, our rules, we're going to say what we want to say.
That's right. Don't take offense.
I hope you don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah.
Um, we have changed. w- We have changed. We have evolved. We have shifted. Even last night when you came into my house to use the bathroom and you talked to my son,
That's the first time.
it's the first time, but bro, when we started this podcast, he was a kid.
Hmm.
He was a kid. He's 19 now, but he was 10 or 11 when we started.
Yep.
That's a lifetime ago. That's
It's
a
pretty awesome.
lifetime ago. So,
That's a cool metric.
and you know what? Now you've added to the Chris Clough lore, as they say, the lore of Chris Clough. So now Ben can say when we're having dinner and your name comes up, he can be like, "I met Chris Clough." You know, after a Foodapalooza, like if of all times, of all places, of all spaces,
Hmm.
that's when he met you. So this he is going to. It's going to come up somewhere along the way, but talking in the car about where we were when we started this, how our lives have evolved, our wants, our needs, our wishes, our disappointments, our um, successes. Like, it's wild. It's wild. And it really hit me when I saw you and Ben talking. I was like, oh my God, I was just talking about change. Clough's here talking to my kid who was like just this little dude when we started this thing.
Hmm.
It's crazy to me. Um, it's crazy to me because it reminds me to just sometimes slow down and just think about things. And I guess the whole point when for me when we were talking about this was you and I had goals. We had clear paths, we thought. We're no longer on those paths. We're on different paths. When you and I started this podcast, it was unimaginable to me that I would be a high school teacher.
Hmm.
You know, I've had moments in my career where I thought, oh, it might be cool to be a high school teacher. In that, what a different world that would be. And here I am, a high school teacher. And that still doesn't, it's not gotten old on me. When I walk into the building and I'm walking to my office space and I see the same kids in the same spots and have the same chats with them every morning, it's like it's not gotten old. I've not taken it for granted. I'm like, this is friggin' cool. And then when I sit down at my desk and I start doing my computer stuff, I'm like, this is friggin' cool. And when I go work with kids or call a kid to the office to talk, I'm like, this is friggin' cool. It's cool. It is completely different than where I was 10 years ago. And so I was saying to you, I don't even know what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years. I have plans. I have plans. I have no idea how they play out or how the path turns or bends or stops. I don't know. I don't know because I've gone through this thinking I knew and I don't know.
Mm. I like back at some point in our podcasting conversations, we would have talked about making sure the blog post was put up, making sure that it was transferred to iTunes. We at some point talked about, do we want to invest in having transcriptions available? And you just got me thinking about how fascinating is the new version of this would be feeding the video to an AI and having it sort of listen for and pay attention to the nuances in us being present here in the podcast. Um, that was just a fascination that, anyone stepping into podcasting right now, my humble advice to you would be to make sure you're doing that with your content without sort of, and make it kind of like standard practice, because you don't know, as you said, where you're going to end up. But because you have this really cool tool that you and I didn't have at the beginning, imagine, again, we've said this, we don't have to imagine anymore, the value of having 8 years of really great conversation, not categorized and dead, but vibrant and interacting with itself, that you could actually have a discussion with your own content at some point. And that's kind of, it just occurred to me like that is the most current version of useful tools to have laid onto a podcast, would be to make sure that every one of your episodes is being read over and thought about by an AI. That would be really cool. Anybody starting out, even to have a year's worth, it would still be valuable. Because again, you could sort of go into it so much easier just by talking to it. Like, what did we talk about on Saturday, in X Saturday in 2022? What were we kind of talking about then? And for just to tell you back, I don't know, how did I sound when I was sort of mentioning that? Well, you seem to sound like you were kind of upset about it. Oh, okay. I'm not upset about that anymore. Why aren't I sad about that anymore? Like, how have I changed? Like, it allows for some really cool reflective practice. That's the first thing. The second thing is kind of on reflective practice. I think the fact that anyone stops and notices that they want more of a present moment means that they are on the right track with paying attention to their present moments. So, yeah, at the same time, as you're standing there watching me have a conversation with your son, those moments don't come because you force them. They're there because you notice. So I think you're fine. I think you're fine noticing these things. I'm imagining, for me, it's less of a fascination. It falls into that mindset of mourning. Like, I want to protect this because at some point I may not have this. And I would just say that because that seems to be, I would caution anyone from doing that, because that type of nostalgia actually pulls you out of your moment. So the exact noticing that you're in a moment that you love, be cautious, because that noticing pulls you out of the moment. Because then you start to analyze it, as opposed to being there and actually feeling what's going on. So what I really loved the fact was, like, the dude called me Chris. He named me. He's never done that. We've never had that opportunity. I was driving home. I'm like, Ben knows I exist. He called me by my first name. And it was so kind of like, it was like a, hey dude, kind of a moment. And that was great. It was great. And my sort of reflection on it wasn't, I want more of that. My reflection on it was, this is a cool space to now walk into, that prior to this, just like you said in the podcast, I had no idea it was going to be offered to me. And there it was. I now have a relationship with your son in the way that I hadn't 2 seconds before I was going for a piss in your bathroom. Like, it wasn't there. And then it was. Boom. There it is. I'm now Chris to him. I'm not just that buddy that drives in every once in a while. Like, I'm not that much. I'm less of an enigma, but interesting in other ways now. So I like that. I think that's pretty cool.
Um, I'm surprised he called you Chris.
Hmm. It
I'm
just
get I'm getting another coffee as we talk.
do it. Yeah. Yeah. Cause
Yeah.
I tend to just go by my last name.
Well, I call you
Um,
Clough all the time. Like
yeah.
I don't really. Maybe when I'm talking to my wife, I'll call you Chris. But it was just funny that he called you Chris,
Hmm.
and I'm
Hmm. And to me, because typically I don't hear my name, and again, it's how I kind of direct my identity, right? It's I direct my identity towards my last name. I just always have. My professional email, I don't even have my first name on it, just says Clough. It's I think I have the same thing with my Gmail account. It just says Clough. And then my Linktree uh URL, I think. It might say with wholehearted gratitude as well. Um so yeah, that I did notice that. I noticed that, but then I also took like that was his offering of relationship because it wasn't forced. It was just what came out of his mouth. We were having a nice conversation just about, kind of checking in, best wishes for school. Maybe at some point the kids come to Foodapalooza. I could see the look on his face, like he wants to be I think he would be down with that. Like come like that might even been his words. Yeah, I'm down with coming for some food. Why not? The next gen, right? BC for men, next generation. So
you
the
can hear that,
the brewing in the background. I dig
and the
it.
smell is great.
I imagine.
Um, he would totally be down with that.
Mhm.
He's in that place. Both of my boys are in a place where they're open and ready to jump into things like that because even though they don't consider their old man a cool guy, some of the things I do, they're like, that's kind of neat. The things I do are neat. Like when I told him Paul was with us, he's like, "Oh, PG was there." Like he's like, because he knows PG, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny when I mention Gary now, everybody in my house is like, "Who's Gary?" And I've told them about a dozen times. Gary is, and then I give Gary's resume, and they
Hmm.
still, you know, who are you talking to? Who are you going out with? Gary's gonna be there. Gary's gonna be there. Who's Gary? Oh, Gary is. Where I don't have to do that for you anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, Clough's coming to town. Da 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 da. They're like, okay, Clough, right? The Clough lore, as the kids would call it. Um, but they in they like they're starting to get into the finer details of experiences, which I really love because that's what I want them to have secretly.
Hmm.
Like as their dad, I want them to have these things that on the surface people are like that's stupid, but when you go deep is special. Like the BC for Men Foodapalooza. A bunch of guys are going to go out and take up a parking space with their lawn chairs and sit and talk and eat food from the restaurant that they can go sit in. That's stupid. No, it's not because well, you can yeah, okay, you think it's stupid. Why do you think we do it over and over again?
Hmm.
Good food, good conversation, great people, memories that last a lifetime, stories that my kids want to hear about when I come home from Foodapalooza. My wife is like, "What did you eat? Give me the lowdown." My kids are like, "Did something fun happen? Was there any issues?" They're looking for the bits and pieces that make it special. So I took them on a football game trip, and everything about that trip was building the stories for the future. So it wasn't just the football game that they took from that experience. There was the stay at the hotel, the funny things we encountered, the food we ate, the people we talked to and met and connected with from here. All that to say, both of my boys they see that. They
Hmm.
see that this, the one thing that has us going somewhere isn't the one thing that we end up focusing on. It's all the things around that one thing that creates a story, a narrative, a memory, an experience that lasts a lifetime. So they know when we do a Foodapalooza, they know it's not just going to the Japanese restaurant and trying squid balls. They're
Mm.
like, what happened? Who said what? Did anybody? My wife was like, when I sent her pictures of us sitting in the parking lot, she's like, I'm sure people are driving past you guys and being like, what the H is going on? They're taking up 2 parking spots with their chairs, and who are these people and what are they doing? So my wife is like, even she's looking at the periphery. It's not just about the food. Foodapalooza is more than just getting together for food, just like the book club for men is more than just a book club.
Hmm.
All that to say, my boys, they're into it. They recognize, and I think I'm doing a good job of modeling for them how to experience these kinds of things and to live in the moment, make your memories, have your fun, because you don't know how long they last. You don't know when it ends. Um, so yeah, man, there was a lot going on last night on that ride home. It was a good BC for men. Food. I keep referring to it as BC for Men Foodapalooza. We added a new twist last night. I don't know if we want to talk about that.
Yeah, drop it, drop it.
I don't even know how to drop it. Um, like visiting the store that we checked out.
Hmm.
I don't even know. Do we? I don't know.
I love it. So, yeah. So, put it this way: yeah, I guess
We added a new layer.
yeah, we add a new layer. It'll have to be if you know, you know. If you know, you know. So we added a new layer to it. It was completely spontaneous. We rolled up for a dessert, and there was a spot beside the dessert spot that we're like, hey, let's check this out. And so we did. We checked it out. Um, but I'll say we'll leave that for our Patreon, our patronizing feed. I don't think there's a lot of media captured of it. There's 1 or 2 photos. But again, it was a new layer to it, and it was entirely a second half of life opportunity. There wasn't something about this that there wasn't something about it that was illegal or unethical. It was just an extra layer that was added spur of the moment. Cheers to you. And we checked out this shop, and there was some fascination, there was discussion, there was another layer that some individuals in the group revealed about themselves. It was a stop that kind of fascinated people in a way, like it showed that they had been sort of it was the consensus effect. It revealed that people were thinking similar. We actually had evidence that people were thinking similarly and thinking differently in that moment, because not everybody participated in going into this spot, which is absolutely fine. We were there for dessert. How about you didn't want to come into this place? You didn't have to come into this place. But what happened is, I will say, on the inside, the people that went in, there was discussion. Like, it sparked up discussion about stuff, and it wasn't ridiculous or silly. It actually felt very kind of casual and of high interest to each other. Um, it felt like any of the other events or the activities that we do in BC for Men or in the Foodapalooza hangouts. So that was cool. Yeah, I think for now we'll leave it for the on ramp kind of discussion. People can sort of make their assumptions about where we went, but again, not illegal, not uh, unethical in any way, but definitely I think you and I kind of like, well, this is a new layer to Foodapalooza. Felt entirely natural too, because there was some seeking and some interest in sort of like checking out this place. But it definitely was something different from than we've done in the past, um, than Foodapalooza.
I'd love to hear from Gary if he's still here about. Um, I really enjoyed getting to know the guys a little bit more
Mhm.
from our conversations, from just the different things that would pop up. And we had 2 We had two new gentlemen join us last night,
Mm-hmm.
and we had two new gentlemen join us last night. I thought that they seemed to enjoy themselves, and they seemed to be um, open to the conversations we were having, and sharing their perspectives and a little bit of history about who they are, where they could, like, they shared a little bit. They trusted in the group, and so I guess as the person who's kind of overseeing this in a way, for me, it's like mission accomplished. People can come and do what they do and maybe not share or not really get into it in a way that makes me think that they're into it. But it seemed like they fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And even saying that's weird because they don't have to fit in. I'm
No.
so okay with that, right? Like, from my perspective, it seemed to flow.
And
But
this is
if there was
this
no flow, that would have been okay too.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the stop that we made was a perfect example of, because it was a stop, it was an added stop on the GPS. So we made that stop in that shop, and then we went next door for dessert. And then we were back at when we were present in the dessert moment, and we were talking about other things. So for people choosing not to be a part of that other sidebar, again, was in some ways a demonstration of choice. And if we are not that in this group, then we're not sort of pushing the right mindset, I think.
I also think it's awesome that with the book club for men, we've had people return, but we've also
Mhm.
had people not return.
Mhm.
And that's okay. If they don't have the time, or if it didn't feed them in the way that it feeds other people, that's okay. They gave it a shot. I mean, yesterday one of the guys said, when you were saying, like, here's the next book we're going to probably do. Check it out, pick it up. One of the guys said, "Oh, just don't do it on this night again." And it was
Mhm.
hilarious because he was like, "I want to participate, guys, but you did it on a night that I just was never able to make it."
Mhm.
And I'm like, what I loved about that, I loved that he said that,
Mhm.
because he's like, "Hey, I want to do this, but you guys did it on a night I wasn't available. But I also love that we're going to do it on a night that works for us." So it's like, it was like a yin and yang moment for me. It was
Yeah.
sweet and bitter because I'm like, "Oh, I love that you want to be part of it. I love that you want to chill with the guys. You want to talk about this stuff. But I also love that it's going to happen on a night that I'm available if I'm the one running it." So
Mhm.
this is just how it goes. I'm like, I'm not bothered some people don't come back. They tried it. Either they didn't like it, or maybe I don't invite them again. I don't necessarily, 99.9% of the time I'm not doing that from a negative perspective. I just don't get back to you. Or we've had I'd love to look back and figure out how many people and who they were actually part of the book club at one point or another.
Mhm.
But it
The
just,
memory's starting to fade, isn't it? Just a little bit, like who's kind of been a part. Like there's some work there to recall
yes.
who's been a part. It's not right on the edge of the mind, right? Um, and even some of the moments, like there's just too many it's like looking at 343 episodes and just kind of going, holy shit, how long have we been doing this for? Like there's a comeuppance to it that sort of like, like it's right in your face. Like we've done enough of the book club now. We've done enough of the book club and enough of the Foodapalooza that like we're over the hump of whether or not this is a thing. We're well over the hump. Just like the podcast, we're well over the hump. Like we're now just traveling. It's traveling. We're just kind of like and again, because it feeds, it's a format, it's a family connection, it's a bunch of friends that it works. Somebody asked us last night, like, how long you're going to do this for, the podcast. And it's like, until it's no longer useful to us. And I was like, I don't know if they were asking you or me, but as I gave that answer, I think I looked over at you and I'm like, yeah, like this is what we get. If one of us were to say, I'm sure if one of us were to say, actually, I'm not sure. Here's probably how I would roll. If you came to me and said, like, I would want to know if you wanted to stop, I would want to know. I would want to know the story behind it. If you said you were done, I would also accept that it might not mean that I'm not done. I might choose to keep doing something. Who knows? But your choice or my choice to step away, becomes kind of like just that straight up honest discussion. And then we kind of move on. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. So, but it's the body, when you can start to say a body of work, you realize this idea of body of work has to be passion fueled, because you just don't know where it's going to lead you. So there has to be something very fulfilling just about the actual meeting up here on a Saturday morning, or driving, across the region for a meal, or, meeting up every couple of weeks to discuss a book. There has to be something there. And then at some point you're looking back, you're like, shit, man, 5-6 years now we've been doing this. There's obviously something to it. And it was great. You kind of posed that question. What is it? What is it, the thing that's to it? And trying to parse out, what the copy on that, the advertisement for why it is that people come back to the book club for men. I think it's complex. The best way, maybe, is to start including that in our discussion. Like, that feels like a really genuine kind of thing to talk about, maybe directly or indirectly. Yo, Gary, why do you come from Foodapalooza? What's the thing? Why are you sticking around for book club for men? Like, what's the thing? I feel like there's a really cool, you can talk about stuff and then you can talk about real stuff. Maybe starting to talk about the group in that way. What brought you here, but what's keeping you here? And where would you like this to go next? Seems like a very reasonable next 3.0 discussion for this, right?
I definitely. Oh,
I was gonna say, and we can kind of like, who gives an F? Fine, buddy, thanks. We're still gonna do what we're gonna do. But the irony here is that we are doing the things that we want to do. It just so happens, like, it's hard to tell sometimes. Are we still doing the things we want to do? Or are we now doing it because we have a really cool community to do them with? Right? And we can kind of flex and say, yeah, like, there's something at any moment we could shut this down, boys. So, get your next round, because it could be done. But there's a little bit of that kind of energy where we kind of say we're going to do what we're going to do, but we're also making decisions on behalf of the community. Like, we're actively creating things that we know are going to be inclusive of other people. So maybe there is kind of like space for that conversation now. Like, if we are looking for people to invest emotionally or socially at a higher level, is there a discussion there to say, like, why is it that you're here, man? Like, what is it? Like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how this kind of feeds you, or it helps you, or you've grown because of it. That feels like part of the mission statement that you and I never really drafted on this. It feels like that's part of what we're seeking, that realness, that grittiness, that brotherhood, that ability to talk about our dad's stories, that vulnerability. It's that stuff that's inside the armor that I think is part of our operating system here. But we've never really dug into that. Not in any sort of like tactical way, let's say. So
there definitely is a fellowship.
mm-hmm.
There definitely is a fellowship. Yeah. Do we go deeper? How do we go deeper? I mean, you posed it to Gary. I don't know if he wants to share, but it would be great.
Doesn't have to. Great thing, he doesn't have to.
But I get the vibe from Gary, just getting to that I've gotten to know Gary, is that he's a deep thinker.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to talk profession. He likes to talk personal. He's open to different things, different experiences. And I think we give off some of that vibe from the Foodapalooza, from the BC for Men. I think it's for me, it's really cool. As you know, my journey with reading, like literacy, fiction, nonfiction, it's layered, it's deep. I could pay a therapist a lot of money to help me tease it apart. At the end of the day, I end up the book club for men is a great space to talk about the learning that we're doing from the reading we're doing, but it's also where we talk about our life experiences. And how many times have we made connections to our fathers, our
Hmm.
families, our spouses, our kids? Like, it's not just, it's not school PD. It's not a book club where you just strictly talk about the book and you ignore the humans in the room. It's more, it's a vehicle to learn about the humans in the room. We're doing it, the common thread is the book, but we venture on different tangents, and that's okay. Like,
Hmm.
there's a lot about it that's okay. How many times have I said in a book club for men meeting, somebody will say, I'm sorry, I didn't read the chapter this week. And I'm like, I don't care. You're here. You can be part of the conversation. You can take in what we're saying that's connected to the book, and then you can do something with that if you wish. And we've had that. We've had members make connections to things and be honest and say, I didn't read it. And I'm like, I personally don't care. I'm like, I don't care if you didn't read it. I'm glad you're here. And then they'll talk about it. And sometimes some people don't say a word the whole time we're in the meeting. Other times they've got lots to say. And I try to, from my perspective, I try to normalize maybe the things that may not be normal outside of that space.
Hmm.
Just come, just come as you are. Just come as you are. And I don't know, take something away from it if you can. I mean, I take away from it. That's why I do it. But it's turned into a really cool space of fellowship where we can talk about all kinds of stuff that maybe my little bit here is maybe things men don't feel comfortable talking about in general.
Hmm.
Because I have a lot of friends who are stereotypical men. They on the outside when we're in a group, they won't talk about certain things that they'll talk about when it's just one on one. They just won't because they don't feel safe or they don't think it's right or they were socialized not to. I'm a product of that in that my dad was an old school immigrant type hardworking person. There wasn't a lot of talk about feelings. There wasn't a lot of talk about that kind of thing. And the way it was. And there were moments, there were sprinkles of, oh, my dad's crying. What's going on here? What has happened that has led to this moment of vulnerability that I don't ever see from my father? Right? Or why is my father acting that way in that interaction? There was a lot of that. There was never explicit teaching, explicit talk to the point where when I'm explicit with my kids about feelings or about something that's stereotypically not what males talk about, I do get some pushback sometimes. They just
Hmm.
look at me like I'm nuts. And I'm like, yeah, for the most part, I try to be, I'm certainly built like my dad, but, I will talk to my kids about crying, about feelings, about if, if we have a little bit of a blowout, I come back to it and try to explain, hey, the reason why I was a dick was because, and it's like not to excuse that I was a dick, but to give some insight into where I come from, how I generally operate, and that it's not easy. It's not easy to go against the grain sometimes. You just go with it, and then you're like, oh,
Hmm.
shoot, I went with the flow, and it's caused more problems than it should have for these two kids that I really don't want them to operate the same way. There have been times where I say to both my kids, don't be like me in this regard. That's why we're talking about this right now. That's why I'm lecturing you. Don't be like me. And I am this way because of A, B, C, and D. And now I'm talking to you explicitly about that so that you don't be like me in this
Mhm.
regard. It doesn't work. It causes a lot of heartache, causes a lot of stress. So if you can find another way, find it. You know, um, and all that to say, I'm happy with what BC for Men has become. I'm happy that Foodapalooza, we can have guys come out. We can have guys show up an hour and a half after we've started and just put the chair down in the parking lot, sit down, and we just start handing food and talking and just rolling right with whatever's going on. I love that. I love that because that's not the that was never normal to me.
Mhm.
So I love seeing people do that and not feel like they're doing something weird or wrong. That brings me joy. That brings me joy because that was never me. So it's like, don't be like me. Be better, do better, grow, evolve. It's okay. We are more than just what we present, you know?
Mhm.
There's part of us that there's pain, there's hurt, there's excitement, there's hope, there's anxiety. We're like all these things. It's okay to be all those things. I like that. I like to foster that in others. Gary says that he's enjoyed the conversation. He says he likes that sometimes we share and other times it is rich just listening.
Mhm.
And I get that. And Carlos said, what did Carlos said a couple, Carlos, I said to him
I
yesterday,
want that T-shirt. I think that's our next. That I think we need there. There has to be um I think our thought leader, but I don't want to use thought leader. Um, I like that as a like our wellness coordinator, something like that in that title. We have to figure out what the title is for Carlos, and it is he's not actually. It's not. We don't just say Carlos. Whenever we refer to him, it has to be Carlos said. Everything is Carlos said. Carlos said. And then we just kind of leave it at that, like the mystery. We start building the mystique around that. What did Carlos say this time? Well, Carlos said. And then we just kind of like, because I will just, sorry, I pulled your wind there, but it's like the dude just, the guy's in touch with flow in conversation in a way that I'm not. I don't have that, his connective tissue to the universe and to his life experience and to what's right in front of him is like pretty spectacular. It's pretty spectacular. He got a little tired at the end. He was pretty happy. I think his banana split was his gift to himself at the end because he was just like pounding, pounding on that. He looked like a happy kid sitting there. But
that that was awesome. That was awesome. A bunch of middle-aged guys at DQ eating treats from back in the day.
yeah,
That was so awesome. Yeah, when Carlos sat down with his banana split and it's like, dude, it looked different. It wasn't as
yeah,
plentiful as it was when I was younger, but man, that was great. It's great that he goes underground for so long and then he just pops up. He's like, somebody say Foodapalooza? Here I am.
yeah. Front of the
You know?
line. He's like right there.
And his brother joined us for the
Yeah,
first time, which is awesome. And I'm glad that Gary made that. Gary was the connector there.
yeah,
Gary's like,
yeah.
hey, it was even awesome the way Gary talked about, I think Gary, you said, I have an idea or I have a thought. And Gary was like, how do we add a member to the group?
Just
Sit,
like that.
if you're
That's like
interested, I send them an email
everyone
or,
has administrative rights to a
yeah.
degree, right? It's like, yeah.
Or
I was
just
talking.
send them the WhatsApp invitation, whatever.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, just pop up in their DMs. Um, it was funny. I was chatting with his brother, so I looked over. I'm like, so just the plain ice cream, huh? He's like, yeah. He goes, they used to have one that I really liked. I forget what he called it.
Pineapple
Trop-
coconut,
Something like that. Well, that was the thing. It was like, yeah, but it was. I don't think it was called that. There was like he said it was called
tropical or
tropical
something.
or something like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, probably with like pineapple on it. He's like, it was the coconut. I'm like, oh man, like he got real. Like it was. I had a lot of great laughs with him, just like chatting about stuff. Um, but it was that moment where he said it was about the coconut. I'm like, damn, you hit that was like your base criteria there. And then I was like sad for him that he couldn't get his ice cream with pineapple and coconut anymore. Uh, but he's a character. It was cool to get to know him and to sort of like have combos with him too. Yeah, good stuff.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I guess so. This is episode 1 of summer school, I guess. Did you
Mm,
say that? Are we
mm-mm.
saying that summer? Do we agree that next week anything after this is summer school?
I would agree because summer school doesn't start the day after school ends, right?
Imagine.
Oh, don't even get me started. I'm sure maybe in some places it does, but not here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Summer school.
Nobody likes those school boards where they just go right into it. Although I will say after a weekend, like for me, if I were going to do summer school, my preference would be just to go right back to work on Monday. That would be my preference. Not to have time off in between. Like if I knew I was going to teach summer school, I would rather just continue and keep doing it and then get my time on the back end. I don't need a week off in between to recover. It's like just keep going. Just keep going. Day after Canada Day, boom, let's get right back to it. I don't have a vote, but that's what I would prefer.
I don't have a vote.
Yeah, I don't get a vote on that. Oh, I will say driving home last night,
Yeah, how was that?
no real rain. It was just kind of like misty, drizzly a little bit. Not the rain that I expected, but brother, I wish I had my camera. I wish I could have taken photo and video. It was like we're saying last night, the Stranger Things sky, that color of the sky when we were at DQ, frightening. That was like the world's going to end kind of like weird colorful sky. And I'm
Was it
assuming it had something to do with, we could talk about the climatological phenomena that are happening, something about sunset, cloud cover, and electrified atmosphere, because that weird ass color that was like a very frightening browny red and then kind of a gold. I've never seen skies like that before. I don't even know what direction I was actually looking when we were looking at that. What direction were we looking, like compass wise, when we were at, because we kind of drove kind of in a singular direction to, well, we kind of went and then we turned left. No, when we left the parking lot of Kenzo, we kind of went right and then turned left, didn't we? And then we kind of just kept on going in that direction. What direction is that? South, east, west, north?
I'm not good with that stuff. I mean, I can pull up a map right now and take a look.
Yeah, just because
Um,
I don't know. So the only reason I make that connection is that driving home, a lot of it was in front of me. It
okay.
was actually, so I was driving looking at it. And the thing that I saw that I've only ever seen in movies before, most times the lightning that I experience, it's like flashbulb, right? Boom, boom, just like that. And then you could kind of see the forking of the lightning, but it's so instantaneous. You never seem to be looking in the right direction. It's just slightly off center, like, oh, there it is, like, oh, there it is. When I was driving home, it was that tick 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 tick. It reminded me lightning through the sky, slightly golden again, completely frightening. But it was also like, in the movies, the person like, oh, little Jimmy's out on the ice, and Johnny goes out there to save them, and they step and they're fine. They step, they're fine, and then they take that step, and you see the, and then it kind of splinters off. You're like, oh shit, it's gonna break. That type of ice cracking where you can actually see the path that it's gonna follow, brother. The lightning was doing that. I could actually notice it and see it kind of like trace through this. It looked like slow lightning. I've never seen anything like that before. And it happened twice on the drive home. Like literally, like I would call it slow lightning. And I imagine it's still moving at the same speed, but there was something about its the way that it illuminated suddenly, probably through the again, so we could probably explain this through the cloud cover. I'm imagining it almost had like a glowing after effect. I'm sure it still moved at the same speed, but because it played out kind of behind a cloud, somehow that glowing line seemed to move slower. I was actually able to see like going through the sky. I was like, man, I wish I could have recorded that. It was gorgeous and frightening at the same time.
So according to the map, what we saw in the sky looks like it was in the northwest.
So not the opposite direction where I was traveling.
I
So
guess.
because I was kind of heading kind of northeasty when I went home.
But even
So
when we were driving back to my place, the
yeah,
lightning was just it was firing off here and
yeah.
there. There was no thunder, but the 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 light show was something else.
Hmm. Last night was a little bit of and I haven't had this happen since maybe year 1 or 2 of Foodapalooza in your region. Last night it was asshole in the roundabout. Last night driving home, there were idiots going into the roundabouts. I've now learned how to do roundabouts. I've had to learn that because you have like 8 of them leading to your house from where I come in. There's at least 7, I think.
Yes, you're right.
There's 7 or 8 coming up to your house, which is fine. I dig them. I think they make sense. I think they make from an infrastructure kind of. I think they make sense. There's some learning that goes along with it. I think there's very. I don't know if there's any. There's definitely nothing like that here in York Region. There's some areas that have them, but nothing like that I've ever experienced. But yeah, the a-holes were out last night. They were not doing it right. They were swerving, changing. I'm like, you can't do that. Don't do that. Don't change lanes. Don't change lanes. Like you got to pick your lane and go for it, right? So yeah, that was problematic. But I'm here, so right.
You made it home.
I made it home. All right, dude.
Okay, well, it's the start of summer for us. So
Away we go.
enjoy your first day of summer vacation.
Thanks, man. You too. And to everyone else, Gary. Thanks for coming out
Gary,
last night. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to spending some time with Gary. Carlos gave me the side eye and said, "Are we going to do breakfast?" I said, "Bro, I can do breakfast.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you're going to go back into hiding." Friggin' Osama bin Laden over there.
You gotta catch him. You gotta
somewhere.
catch him. Yeah.
Gonna have to get my military crew and go find him. But yeah, happy to spend time with the guys, and hopefully, I know we're planning on getting to your neck of the woods before this summer ends.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe some of the Waterloo guys will come out and they'll head to York Region with me. Who knows?
I'll say last book club, it was more heavily weighted Waterloo crew. The York Region crew was not as they weren't into it. I don't think we had anyone other than me, right? There were some promises, but no commitment. So maybe roll in next time. There'll be a few more people. The summer food option. I think everyone on my side over here in York Region are all teachers, so they got the time. I just if they haven't sort of scheduled it into something, right?
Right.
So, all right.
This was season 8, episode 36, number 343 of the Decoded Podcast. Have a great day, and we'll catch you later.
Yeah, for sure, brother. Take care.